Okay. Well, we made it in today. That's good, right? So, a lot of men are walking around feeling like they're walking through an emotional minefield when it comes to modern dating and relationships, and with a lot of times how women are problem solving these days, right? So, like, guys feel like they're on eggshells. Guys feel like they're trying to navigate a minefield because it seems like anytime you try to institute a boundary or standard, a lot of you guys are experiencing where it's like trying to do that is going to create some sort of conflict or drama, and it's going to be a problem. And you guys aren't feeling this way because you're just angry men or incels, or many of you are dating and in relationships, so that doesn't really work, right? um you're not these abusive men, or these misogynist, narcissistic people, or any of the thing that the internet or that women that you've dated have tried to tell you when you had a standard for yourself, right? It's not the reason why you feel this way. And it's definitely not because you lack empathy. I mean, if you lacked empathy and didn't care about the women you were dating, then you wouldn't care if they had a feeling or problem with you know, you instituting a standard in your life or in your relationship, right? So, like, you wouldn't care about their feelings. This wouldn't even be an issue. So obviously, it's not a problem of lacking empathy or lacking sympathy or actually wanting to do the right thing as a man. So it's not lack of effort, that you're experiencing this or running into this. And you know, most of the time you have a disagreement with a woman, for a lot of you guys, right? That disagreement gets framed as harm. Somehow you're harming this person you're with your disagreement. And if you think about it, that's sort of the framework that's happening, right? And so once a disagreement becomes you're somehow harming the person you're dating or in a relationship with, then what do you become as the man? Well, the man becomes automatically the aggressor, right? And then she automatically becomes the victim, and you are automatically the bad person, and you are automatically the problem that needs to be fixed. And all of this happens because of therapy and therapy language. All right. That's where this is happening more today, 2026, than maybe in history. All right. So you'll hear phrases like, well, that's triggering my trauma, or I don't feel emotionally safe, or can't I just vent without you know having a personal conflict, or these are my feelings, and you have to respect and understand that these are my feelings about it. I don't have emotional safety, or you're violating my boundaries, or how about you're gaslighting me, or how about well, maybe this is just narcissistic, you're narcissist, or um, all of these words and tactics. Many of you have heard this before. You've heard this from women, whether you're in relationships with them, dating, or whatever. Now, let's be clear here. It's not, so nobody clips this the wrong way. It's not that using some therapy language is bad necessarily or unhealthy if it's used for the reason it was created, which is to create clarity and a better understanding of what's going on. The problem is when it's weaponized, all right? And that's what's happening nowadays. And guys do this too, but usually they're copying women. But this is a thing that you hear from men now too, unfortunately. In relationships, I commonly hear this from women. Now, I mean, you tell me, you're a new person jumping on this stream and you're curious about what I'm talking about. What do you think? You can let me know in the chat or in the comments if you're seeing it later. What's your opinion? Do you think men do this more or women do this more, or do you think it's equal? I mean, my impression is women are doing it more, but I'm working with men who are dealing with the women who do this. So I realize I have a biased view. So maybe you have a different view. It'd be great to hear it. Okay. But this seems like something that women like to do. And at the very least, I'll say that women are better at doing this a lot of the times. And I'll get into the reasons why that is. little bit later in the stream. So they're more talented at doing this and using this for manipulation if that's what they choose to do, usually, right? And again, it's not to say that guys aren't doing it. Some guys, there's a very few small select, and it's a select number of guys, very small percentage, that we could classify as abusers, and those abusive guys figure out how to use this kind of manipulate, use this therapy language to manipulate and justify abusive behavior. So that is something that does happen for sure, but that's not you guys who are listening to me. Most of the time, somebody who is a type that would abuse women, they're not listening to me necessarily to try to learn how to have better relationships. You know what I mean? So, and that's not most guys, and that's not most of you listening. That's not your experience. You may get blamed or shamed and being told that you are that guy when you're not that guy. That can happen because that's another way to win an argument or to have power over you, is to make you the bad guy and to paint a picture of you that's much more extreme than what's actually happening. So these are all things that are happening. We're going to call it out and get it on the table here, so you have awareness of it and maybe some things and strategies, to how to handle it, what to do about it, right? A little bit of game strategy here. All right. The uncomfortable truth, though, is, like I said, whether or not men or women do it more, women are just more fluent, I think, in emotional and therapeutic language than men. They're just more fluent in it, right? So whoever's using it, they're just better at it. And in modern dating, that fluency in therapy language functions like power. And you can see it, like they're getting it from TikTok. They're getting it from social media. They're getting it from reading little blurbs on the internet. They're not studying necessarily psychology in any sort of deep way where they have an understanding of these things. Some women do, but some women who do that are really just using it, then using therapy language as a weapon even more powerfully when they study the nuances and details. It just gives them ammunition to have a better argument. You know what I mean? And to be more manipulative. And I think what you're going to find as we go through this is it depends on the frame. Depends on the frame of the person who is using, who is handling the conflict, which is why, you have your frame or way of seeing the world. The woman has her frame, her way of seeing the world. And then you have the frame of the relationship that you lead, and you want her frame to start to blend and match yours. And at least it doesn't have to be, she doesn't have to agree with you and everything, but she has to have a frame and a way of seeing the world and operating in the world that supports the relationship or the frame of the relationship, rather than working against it or trying to have power over it. And that's the key to a healthy relationship conceptually, is frame, and you leading it as a man and her happily supporting it, and at least being a support. Again, it doesn't mean she's going to agree with you with everything, but you guys are on the same mission. You guys are on the same page, same trajectory. Your values and the way of seeing the world is a good enough of a match where when you run into some conflicts or problems, you're solving it in a way where you're both on the same team. And the way of doing that is through a bunch of communication methods I've given here through YouTube, and that we talk about, in my mastermind and coaching programs, like Luca, for example, communication models and strategies that are designed to put you both on the same team and allow you to move things and progress the relationship forward, where no one's, she's not sitting here having power over you and weaponizing things in order to have power, and women do that. Anybody does that, really. That the need for power is a form of protection. And so why do women do this more now? They don't feel safe in the world. That's why. There's more and more uncertainty now, more than ever, for women to operate in the world. Not just fear of injury or death. I mean, arguably fear of injury or death was greater in our history, prior to, like, let's say, agricultural revolution, right? Prior to 100 years ago. I mean, like, women were very unsafe in a lot of ways when it comes to physical safety, throughout most of our history. And so we have to at least recognize that. And that's what caused these evolved brain mechanisms of being able to manipulate, maneuver socially, and use these social norms and the power of the social structure in order to have power over men. And that, I mean, that's a way of protecting themselves, right? Women evolved to be able to do this. I mean, for good reason. I'm not saying that it's like healthy or good necessarily, but I mean, it's for good reason that this evolution happened, because they needed to have that power as individuals in order to keep themselves safe in a very, um, savage world that we sort of maneuvered around in, and us as men, we evolved to do other things to have power, but we also evolved to caretake to a degree and protect women in our tribe, right? And so that's, I mean, if these things didn't exist, if women didn't evolve to have social power, and if men did, an influence, and some of the stuff that they do, like influence through victimhood or whatever, and if men didn't have the ways of we've evolved in order to gain power, right, as well as the need or desire to protect those in our tribe, if those two things didn't exist, we wouldn't probably be in existence, right? In order to have our children move on to the next generation, right, we have to be able to protect ourselves and protect those around us in some way. And women need to protect themselves and their offspring, not just from outsiders, but from other men, and other individuals within the tribe, perhaps, right? And men needed to do the same, in a different way, protecting their offspring and their women, right, and their tribe from outsiders, but as well as from conflict or problems within, right? So, like, these are all evolved strategies. So it doesn't make women evil, you know what I mean, or anything. It just means that this is the game that they've learned to play in order to make themselves feel emotionally safe. And the real problem is, we have a social environment that leads to a feeling of a lack of safety, both for men and women. Or, when I say safety, it could be not just physical safety, but security, emotional security, security in terms of what our outcomes are going to be, that sort of thing. And it's because of the way the internet drives traffic now. You know what I mean? So driving traffic through sensationalism, through, catastrophic type of thinking, through either or, paradigms, right? And arguments, black and white thinking, all these things, women don't feel like, I mean, they're given a bad narrative about men, and they don't feel like men are competent and like men are safe. So naturally women want to control men, right? And then men, of course, want sexual access, and they want good outcomes too. And so that's you guys, right? And so you guys are sort of finding your own ways of trying to navigate through this and also fight against it. And it's created this very adversarial situation between men and women, and it's worse today than it was before, right? Any of you on dating apps right now? How's the dating app thing going? If you were on dating apps 5 years ago versus now, how drastic the social climate has changed. And I'm not saying you can't be successful on dating apps. I help guys be successful on those all the time, but there's new challenges now. The way you approach your dating app today is not even the same as it was 2 years ago. That's how drastically it's changed. And actually I have a video on that that's going to get uploaded probably today in my community for everybody to watch. It was a webinar I did. It'll help you with dating apps, but I mean, it's like the climate has changed, and so people are becoming more knowledgeable about certain things, but it's a surface level knowledge. And the issue is, okay, power, right? So women don't feel like they have power, even though you guys know, who are listening, women have a lot of power, right? They hold all the reproductive cards. They get all the attention from men everywhere. They have nothing but simps and people offering them favors and deals, and like they don't realize how much advantage they have now in a gynocentric world. You guys know this. You guys are frustrated about this. But women are very unaware of it, you know? And I think that my thought there is that I think that it's just that life has difficulties, life has pain, life has uncertainty in general, whether you have advantages or whether you don't. So a lot of times people who have the advantages don't realize they have them because in their mind, they're still seeing uncertainty, pain, and problems. And so they are like, well, this is uncomfortable. Who do I blame this discomfort on? It's this idea, I think, that people have that life is supposed to be like peaceful and great and chill and easy. And so when it's not that way, they tend to look to others as if they're being victimized by those people. And they tend to look to others that are doing that, others that appear to be doing better than them or appear to be having an easier life. They look to them as somehow privileged or having an advantage that they didn't get. They feel like victims. You know what I mean? And a way to have now, a lot of you guys don't walk around necessarily calling yourself a victim, but that's because you're a man, right? And that's not your evolved mechanism. Your evolved mechanism is to try to solve problems, where a woman's evolved mechanism is to gain power in the social um, marketplace, if you will, sexual marketplace, as well as just the social environment. And one of those ways to gain power is to sort of be the disadvantaged person, to say, well, I'm the victim here. I have all these disadvantages. These bad things happen to me. So I need help, or I need more advantages, or I need you to send me $200 to my OnlyFans account, or I need money to pay rent, boo, whatever. You get what I'm saying, right? Like, I mean, obviously not every girl is a soft core prostitute on OnlyFans, but it's this idea of I need these things. I've been disadvantaged. It's unfair. I need more things to like let me do better. And they don't, many of them are sitting in glorified email jobs where they make six figures or almost, checking emails and, you know, doing client communication or something. And, you know, they're in a daycare for women called an office, and their day is getting coffee and taking a break with the girls and go getting lunch and answering some emails. And it's a low pressure environment that they make $70 to $110,000 a year in. They get it because they're female, because a lot of guys wouldn't thrive in that environment. And they're complaining. You know what I mean? They're complaining about how much of a victim that they are and how bad things are and how men this and men that. And like, and it's very sad. It's a lack of awareness. You know what I mean? That's going on. And that's just what's going on in the world. And I'll get back to the therapy speak thing because it's all tied into it. You know, I want to take a quick, like, we'll say left turn at Albuquerque. I had a good friend who is like a martial arts expert. Guy's pretty awesome. I don't think he listens to my stuff though. He's old now. He's in his like 70s, I think. He used to say that all the time. Let's take a left turn at Albuquerque. I don't know. It's funny. It came from Bugs Bunny. You know, it's when you're going to pivot. I don't know. I like old things. I know I'm old, but you know, I like things that are older than me even. You know what I mean? Like old school movies, old school sayings. Let's take a left turn at Albuquerque. Anyways, I'll stop being a dork now and get into the our thing. But okay, so let's talk about awareness for a minute. Let's talk about victimhood and some of these things. And you know, I'm trying to just evaluating stuff. I'm evaluating like where guys are at, you know what I mean, and where you guys are at too. And why it's so difficult to reach people now. And I don't think I know I have an algorithm problem, but I think I have a problem of just guys now. I think we have a problem with men now, right? And you guys listening, there's a problem, and it's not necessarily your fault. Okay, so I'm not sitting here. I'm not going to sit here and shame and tell you you're a big pussy and you need to do this and that. That's not what this segment's about. All right, I'm not saying that. in an appropriate time that I wouldn't put light a fire up your ass. But this isn't that time right now. I'm just looking at the conditions of things and what things are like right now out there. And I launched this course, right? Psychopath's Playbook. It's going good, by the way. I'm almost at capacity, I think. I might reach capacity by Friday, which is I was gonna keep enrollment open till Sunday, but right now it's open enrollment, by the way, for my new course. It's an inner game course, Psychopath's Playbook. Link in the description. But if you just go sign up without being in the community, you're going to be lost and not know how to access the course. So you got to get in the community. That's parts free. Then you sign up for the course because your classroom to access everything is in the community. Okay. But if you don't do the course, just get in the community. Go at first, look around. Today, I'm going to give you a preview of the intro of the course. So I'm going to put the intro module up after the stream at some point, like within the next few hours. And what I'm going to do is allow you to preview that. Okay. There's going to be a lot more material than just the intro, but the intro gives you a really good explanation of what the course is designed to do. I'm not going to leave the intro up forever. I'm going to take it down, obviously, after the launch, but I'll give you guys a preview. So if you're unsure about taking the course, you can watch the intro and at least see what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's just something I thought about with launching this course in the state of men today and where we're at. Like guys were during COVID, locked in their houses, right? Sometimes limited with job ability, income. Some people laid off. Lots of different things happened, right? And a lot of guys got depressed, but a lot of guys also said, well, let's try to do self-development. Let's work on myself. I'm going to make myself better. I'm going to level myself up. And so guys were motivated to help themselves, 5-6 years ago. And that was really great. Right. And some of you guys still are. But what happened was this: all the grifters came out, man. People with way more clout than I do on the internet. All the grifters, they came out offering, like nowadays, it used to be that you had to actually offer a good product or be good at what you did in order to have confidence to open up a course. Now, every idiot with a YouTube channel or a Twitter account has a paywall and a course offering, some sort of course or some sort of thing behind a paywall. Everyone just said, oh, well, we can monetize my social media if I just make some sort of course, and now it's super shitty because people can just use AI to try to create courses and they're shitty. They're not good. You know what I mean? And so a lot of people took those courses or went off in those directions and they didn't get any results. I mean, I'm getting them now. I'm getting guys telling me, well, I did this guy's program. I did that guy's program, but I'm worse off now, or I'm not doing good, or I was doing good back then. So maybe the program was good, but now I'm doing really shitty. Yeah, dude, because the courses, that's the first problem, is the courses aren't good. I would say 90% of the people out there offering something out there for your self-development is not good. It's garbage. Let's just be honest about it. Let's just be fucking straight up, and they have figured out better than me how to get all the internet clout. Maybe it's because they appeal to guys who aren't going to do the work. That's part of it. Maybe they appeal to a large mass of guys who aren't going to really challenge themselves and who just want quick, easy answers. And then they offer these garbage courses, which don't actually do anything for you, but it makes people feel better for buying them. So maybe they're just better at making people feel better. See, the challenge with me is I know that if you're really going to help yourself, you actually have to feel pain. I can't just make you feel better and then you're going to go off in the world and everything's going to be different for you. You're just going to feel better after talking to me or after doing something, but then things are going to get worse for you, probably, or at least they'll be the same. You'll turn around a year, 2 years later, things haven't changed for you. So I have to challenge you guys. That's my role, especially if we're in a coaching program, and challenge doesn't always feel comfortable. And so guys, I think, shy away from that and they go towards the grifters. And so, and then the grifters get way more popular. So then normal guys like yourself who want to do the work, who are ready to fucking make yourselves better, end up getting kind of hoaxed or, goofed into taking those courses. And it just sucks because then you do these things and you're like, man, this is all bullshit. So a lot of you guys are sitting back, like, especially if you're new and you came to my YouTube channel and you see me sitting here talking about dating and therapy language and talking about courses and stuff and telling you about my psychopath playbook course. And if your first reaction was, who the fuck is this guy? And why should I do anything with him? That's probably the appropriate reaction. That's a good reaction. You're probably a good fit for my program then. Somebody who's a little bit skeptical, you should be skeptical. I challenge people who are skeptical to read through my content, to get into my community, to look at my intro of the course, to do some digging into my background. I have a pretty serious background when it comes to leading men in the military as well as a civilian. If you go through my comment section or read my testimonials, they're pretty good, but we know testimonials can be bullshitted around too. So I don't lean hard on that, but you can just go through YouTube comments and realize that, okay, I have answers for guys to doing better. You know what I mean? And it's not like it's going to take 1 million hours of effort either. Like that to me, if my answer to you involves like for you to move your life forward in different areas just a little bit, if that's going to take, like 100 hours a week, or you know what I mean? If it's going to take an astronomical amount of effort, I'm probably not doing my job. You should be able to make, in most cases, small changes, practical solutions, action taking, but then a lot of it is training too. And so that's what the playbook's about. It's about training your mind. You know what I mean? It's training your mind to take action and handle the stressors and the pressures of that action in a different way. A lot of you guys, like the common thing now, because of all the grifters and all the attempts of getting better, and then you see everything on the internet, at least will tell you that everything in the world's gotten worse. You know what I mean? Like we have more uncertainty now, even with Trump in office. A lot of people thought Trump was the answer. A lot of people hated Trump, right? It was very polarized. Which way you went, right? It's definitely more uncertain now in a lot of ways, whether you support or are against, the current political climate in your country, for those who are in a different country, right? Whether you're a part of the politics or not, whether you support, if you're in the United States, whether you support the left or the right, things are more uncertain now, regardless, right? We got all kinds of things are happening in the world, all kinds of uncertainty, and the dating market has gotten worse. And so a lot of you guys are like, the dating market's gotten worse. Shit's more fucked up. So what is the natural, and coaching doesn't work, right? Because coaching doesn't work because all the grifters came out and put out shitty products. So now everyone thinks coaching doesn't work. So coaching isn't the answer for most of you guys. It's what you think. Fucking everything's fucked up. The sexual marketplace is shit. So women are shit nowadays, right? A lot of men are fucking shit too. What do we do? So what's the answer? Well, this is the thing. Your brain is going to react to that to put you in an apathetic state, in a depressed state, into a state of inaction. And that's where we're at with men right now, is a state of inaction. And many of you are trapped there. And many of you who are watching this right now don't trust me, even though you know what I say is true a lot if you watch my content. But you don't trust that taking a course or even just getting into my community. Like the percentage of people who watch my YouTube and who are in my other platforms that actually get into my community is really low. I get thousands of people to see my stuff a week. Now my community is strong. I have 805 people now. You know what I mean? But the percentage of people who are there asking questions and getting feedback and talking to others and sharing stories, the percentage of people that are there versus who watch my stuff passively is very, very low, which tells me lower than it should be. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying I have these huge platforms, but it's pretty low, man. And I think that just is a statement of where men are at. It's like, dudes, it's your brain reaction to all the shit going on is distrust, and it's not wanting to take that action to do anything about it, and not trusting that a guy like me would have the answers for you, even though I work with a lot of high level men who have a lot of influence in the world. And I work with everybody from the guy who's just getting started in his 20s. I had that guy. I talked to him this week already. Or a guy who's, owns a bit decent sized company and makes decisions that affect tons of employees and clients, or military people who are making decisions. Like, I have clients all over. We get results, but I don't need to tell you all about that. It's just that even with that, it's a distrust that anything is going to work, because that is the brain reaction, by the way. And so when I talk about your brain reacting, a lot of you guys don't understand. Like, I'm supposed to say, hey guys, take my course and get pussy. Right? Want some more pussy? Take my course. If you're married, you'll get your wife to fuck you more. If you're getting the girls, you're doing pickup, you're doing dating apps, all the girls are gonna want to fuck you. And I have to make a really outrageous claim, right? Like, take my course and you'll get 10 times more pussy a week than you've ever gotten in your life, whatever. I have to make a crazy claim. That's what you have to do now, apparently. I won't do it, but that's what you're supposed to do, I guess. And, or how about money? Yeah, I'll make you a billionaire if you just take my, my course on business mindset, right? We'll just change the psychopath's playbook, call it business mindset, and I could just make all kinds of claims that you guys are going to make all this money. Now, the reality is, though, here's the thing, is that when people do my coaching, whether they're working on relationships or other goals, they end up making more money. But that's because their behavior changes overall and their reactions to the world changes. And so their decisions when it comes to their work life, their financial investments, and their spending habits end up changing. And so they end up having more money after coaching because of the work we're doing, even if it's indirectly. That happens all the time, but I'm supposed to overpromise and be like, hey, money, business, course, game, money, game, business, pussy, and cars. And then I'll rent a supercar and guys will be like, wow, and jerk off real fast and, press that click button, get into my community. I guess that's what I'm supposed to do to try to ignite the small amount of guys that might press that button who are depressed and apathetic. But the problem is, if I do that, I don't really think I'm going to get the guys that I want to work with. I want to work with guys more like you listening to my rant right now versus that fucking guy who needs me to flash my dick and flex my muscles and, run a supercar into a fucking brick wall or something and throw some money around or whatever, just to so that they can take some sort of program, hoping that like AIDS or something, the success I'm presenting on the internet rubs off and lands on them. You know what I mean? I don't think I want that guy really even in my community. If that's what it takes to get him to press a button. I think I want guys more like you. And that might mean the guy who looks at me and says, who the fuck is this dude? Why would I listen to him? You know what I mean? That might be that guy, right? The guy who's kind of like, dude, everything kind of sucks right now. I'm not so sure. I just don't feel like doing any of that stuff. It's not the right time right now. I'm going to be moving to a different apartment, or a different house, in the next 2 months and this and that. I just don't know. It's the right time to do something like that. And then it's the course is $600. I'm like, I know it's not a ton of money, but maybe you get what I mean? A lot of talking yourself out of doing stuff. And it's not because you're a fucking pussy or because you're a jackass it's not any of those things. It's just, I think that a lot of you guys are not aware that this is the brain defense mechanism. This is exactly what I'm talking about. It's the brain defending you from all the bullshit out there by causing you to distance yourself from it and to have some sort form of apathy so you don't interact with it or let it affect you emotionally. And it's a defense mechanism. But the problem with that defense mechanism is it leads to a lot of inaction into areas that would really elevate you and change the lives of you and everybody around you, whether you have kids, whether you have girlfriends or wives or not. And you can get those, right? But you can change your own life and the life of those around you by being able to focus your effort towards a few things. But this apathetic response that occurs as a defense doesn't allow you to do it. You know what I mean? It hinders you from doing it. I mean, you're in charge. You can do it, but it creates that obstacle. So I'm just asking you guys who come across this, happen to listen to it, to recognize that this is what's going on. This is not a popular stream right now. I don't have a ton of people watching. And that's okay. I don't need a ton of people. I just need guys who can see the problem that I'm talking about, see it for what it is, and then take a little bit of action to do something about it. I have a very low cost course in the large scheme of things with the amount of value, the course that is out there that you can click right now, press a button and get it enrolled in is hugely valuable. And it's changing all of these things I'm talking about. It's going to change your reactions so the actions you take are better. But I just got to get you to see it. And I just don't know how to do that. You know, it's hard because there's guys who I don't care for them to see anything because they're looking to, like I said, jerk off to some influencer. And that's not who I really want. But the rest of you guys who are, you know, you're real, you know what I mean? And you have, you want to do better. You're doing some things right already, but the world's changed. It's pivoted. It's fucked up. And you're just sort of in a place where you could be doing a lot better. And maybe you're stuck, you know what I mean? And you're a bit afraid. Afraid is not maybe the right word, but you're just not feeling the motivation to make the move to do something about it. And that's the guy. You're the guy. You know what I mean? You're the guy I like to give it a shot with, because I know that once you get momentum, all that shit will change and life's going to be a lot better for you. Because the momentum, and this is the kind of final point on it, the momentum doesn't take a lot. It's really just like the course requirement, or what I'm asking for, is about 15 minutes a day worth of work. So we're not talking about, you know, this massive overhaul that's going to take tons of effort. We're talking about 15 minutes a day. You know what I mean? When it comes to the actual practice, homework, daily practice stuff. Now, of course, there's going to be guys who do more, and I encourage doing more than that. But if you're really busy or you're feeling really apathetic, 15 minutes a day is not a lot. You know what I mean? And it'll drastically change where you're at if you're doing that. But with my guidance, using the tools I provide within a few weeks, because you do this 15 minutes a day of practice, and then that practice influences your whole day. All right. All the actions you're taking throughout the day, to include dating apps or talking to women or making decisions at work, or whether or not you go to the gym later, or what you're doing with your free time, or how you optimize your sleep, like all of those things, right? Anything you're doing, it's framed by that 15-minute activity. And so you're technically training all day, but you don't notice it because you're just doing your normal day. But the difference is you're reacting to the world and you're taking actions differently throughout the day. And that's where the big changes come from. So it's not fucking magic. It's just real. And I just need more real people to see it. And there's a large percentage of you who aren't even in my community. And that's a free resource. And the intro for the course is going to be there. You have a free course on breakup recovery and breaking attachments. And there's a lot of things. I do flash webinars all the time over there where I offer some insight for you guys. And so if you're not taking advantage of that, man, that you really need to take some inventory, really need to look in the mirror and just recognize, man, this apathetic reaction has really affected me. You know, and it may not seem like apathy because you're like, well, I'm doing A, B, and C, so I got other things on my plate. That's a form of apathy. You know what I mean? Because if you're avoiding doing things you need to be doing, and that becomes an excuse, right? Like if you know you need to do some small steps to better certain areas of your life, but you're not doing it, or you're just not seeing that you need to do it, you know? you're going to turn around a year from now, 2 years from now, and you're going to be in the same place and you're going to be kicking yourself for not making something happen. That's going to be you, right? So, anyways, I know I totally pivoted and just ranted for like 20 minutes, but that's that. Okay, that's an important question, probably more of an important topic than the one we have today, which is, I understand that the internet space is riddled with grifters and fucked up shit, and women are fucked and everything's fucked. I get it. All right. That's the whole point. That's the whole reason for the community, is to get away from that shit and find yourself a bubble of people who understand, and then start using some small skills and implementing them every little day, every part of your day, so that everything starts happening different. You know what I mean? This is a good one. Yeah. So it's very simple. If you respond differently, people respond differently to you. Exactly. Well, and the thing is, though, a lot of times people aren't aware of the responses that they're giving the world. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. It's this awareness part is such a big piece. And I can't really, I don't know, really explain it much further, at least not today. Maybe I'll get better at explaining it. But yeah, so I mean, that's something you guys got to do. If you've been watching me, if you're here for the first time, whatever, why wouldn't you just do the free community? I'm asking nothing from you, right? And I'm offering a ton of value. So you got to ask yourself, if you're not doing that part, what's going on with you? You know what I mean? Like what's happening here? What needs to change? Probably a lot, right? But not to mention, I'm almost at capacity. I haven't checked. I think I'm up. I think I'm close. I'm maybe 15 more people. I think I have to close it. So, somewhere around there. So yeah, hit the button and join the course too. We're going to be doing a lot of cool shit there. All right. Well, that's enough of that. Let's get back to the real topic, right? Of course, that was probably a more real topic than what we're talking about. But, we're talking about using therapy speak, right? And so there's my little phone here because I took a bunch of. So I'm going to read some stuff on the therapy speak side, right? So because this thing is being used to weaponize, to weaponizing. Oh shit! I almost forgot. I do have to include this. I'm gonna do a share screen with you. I just want to show you guys something real quick because we just got before we get off the topic completely. On the apathy thing. Let's see here. Here we are. I just want to share this with you. So this is just a little exchange. Happened last night, this morning. Okay, so I had to block. I didn't ask him if it was okay, so I had to block I keep things confidential, so I blocked it off. His name and stuff. But I don't think he would mind. But I just didn't want to risk it. He's a different time zone and everything. But yeah, so this is a guy who just joined the Psychopaths Playbook. All right. So he writes, lesson on mindfulness. I completely understand what is fucked up with me and the amount of things I stopped doing that I used to do, like attention narrowing. Attention narrowing is a technique I describe in the modules that's released right now. Reward-based awareness. That's another technique I have in drill. Cold calling, cold approaching, and walking without listening to anything. The moment I stopped doing those, I started to become like this. So his frustration, anxiety a little bit, and his distrust and frustration and anxiety about the world and about outcomes in general has gone up, and it's affected his way of interacting with women. And he used to just kill it with women, and he's not killing it right now. And so that's what he's talking about. All right. So, and just by reading, we haven't even started the course officially. We're still in the enrollment phase, but if you enroll right now, you'll get the first few modules and some homework to do before our first webinar next week. Okay. So we haven't even officially started the one-on-one coaching, and we haven't officially started the webinar modules where we're doing deep dives into the course activities. And this guy's already having breakthroughs. He's not the only one, by the way. He was a nice detailed message. I've gotten feedback from a number of guys who've already joined the course, are already consuming the material, and are like, holy shit, this is already working for me. So then he writes, I found the answer. Now the challenge is in making sure I implement, which, by the way, that's why it's a 5-week semester. It's not just answers like watching a YouTube video. It's he's going to go through, he's going to get the insights through the practices and exercises in the material, but then he's going to have to apply those insights to the world and take action, which is where accountability comes in. And that accountability comes with the coaching and the weekly accountability to me and to the community. And then by the end of the course, you've had a lot of practice implementing what you're learning and the insights into action, into the world. That's why it works. And you have somebody behind you keeping you accountable, because it's hard to keep track of it. It makes it way easier, put it like that. You know what I mean? When somebody can keep you accountable. So I respond, boom, nice work, brother. I commend you for doing the work and diving into the material. This is the only the beginning. You'll have several more insights and breakthroughs as we go along. So anyways, I just thought I almost forgot to share that. I thought I would share that with you guys. That is the results of not even 2 days of course material. So like I said, if you're not getting in on this, you're probably missing out, man. I mean, that's just the reality of it. That is the way it is. Okay, so now that I got that out of the way, let's go back to women and their weaponization of the therapy speak. Okay, so here we are. Sorry, I'm going back through. Okay, so this is an entry from a woman. Okay, she's writing about weaponizing therapy language. It's a lot of insight for you guys, right? So she writes, these days I've noticed that some of my former friends seem to be weaponizing therapy language to justify self-involvement and the lack of basic consideration towards others. So this is a woman observing her friends, other women, right? And she's noticing that women are going to therapy, learning the language, maybe getting it from TikTok, wherever, and then they're using therapy language and weaponizing it. She's noticing it with her girlfriends. So this isn't just some guy thing, right? Like, this is what she's noticing. She says, for example, they repeatedly cancel plans last minute, flake last minute, ghost or ignore my messages and invitations to events. And I try to gently address it with them, and they will immediately justify their inconsiderate behavior, saying things like they are protecting their peace or practicing self-care, and insinuating that my expectation of decent, polite treatment is unreasonable. So this is a good share, because women are doing this to other women. All right. So this tells you a lesson here. So one is when that girl ghosts you or acts like shit and then gives excuses for her behavior, or excuses her own behavior and blame shifts it to you, or uses some sort of therapy speak to say that this is like something she's doing that's a good thing, and that if you have a problem with it, then you're the problem. Like, if she's doing those things to you, it's not you. All right. Because women are doing this to other women too, in their friends groups and other people. So a lot of you guys who are like, man, like, what did I do wrong, or what can I do to fix it? You're not fixing her. Okay. The girls who are doing that are weaponizing therapy because they have a poor frame and a shitty way of seeing the world, and they're selfish. And so you're not going to change some selfish woman, and you shouldn't try. You know what I mean? And so, like, but a lot of you guys who get frustrated with that behavior understand women do this to each other. Now, understand on the flip side, though, too, a woman is writing this. So it's not all women, right? Like, a woman is writing this saying, dude, this is really fucked up that all my friends are doing this. Yeah. So, like, you got to find the type of woman who would write this versus the type of woman who would use therapy language to weaponize and justify their behavior, right? That's the thing. That's the lesson. So there's a couple different types of women out there, and you need to find the right type. All right. But I'll continue with what she says here. I'm a busy person with family and a job, but I think it's important to at least acknowledge the efforts of others who are taking the time out of their own busy lives to try to connect with you. Is this expecting too much in this day and age where people are busy? I'm not saying friends have to show up at every event, but what I'm asking for is a simple acknowledgement of effort. Something like, thank you for the invitation. I can't make it, or something like that. But that seems to be asking too much for a lot of people who have an inward facing focus on their own energy levels. And it annoys me that they will sometimes wait until, I lost my spot here. Last possible second to confirm a yes to an event so they can explore all their other options. And then then I get to feel like their backup option if they didn't get any other offers. So she's talking about women waiting to the last possible minute to confirm something because they're waiting to see if they got better options out there. Well, yeah, that's what a lot of women are doing. That's shitty behavior from women, right? That's inconsiderate behavior that has been the norm now in dating. But it's not just you guys. They're doing it to their friends, right? But also notice, again, a woman wrote this. So not all women have that value. You know what I mean? And so she continues, these days I'm getting more tough with setting my boundaries with these friends and only investing my time and energy into friends that value and reciprocate it. I'm very lucky to have many amazing, thoughtful friends, but these ones act so entitled that it really puts me off. I had one friend contact me after 6 months asking why I stopped inviting her to events. And I was like, well, you ghosted me for the last 3 invitations. And then I addressed it with you when I addressed it with you, instead of changing your behavior, you doubled down and started leaving my text unread. And so that ends that little entry. And so I want you guys to recognize, like, this is not your fault that you're running into this. This is the behavior of women nowadays. They're doing it to their friends. And it's just because it's a simple thing, right? A lot of people in general, but what you guys are concerned about is women because you're dating them. But a lot of people in general, men and women, look for any excuse to justify their behavior rather than challenge their behavior and then look to do something different, right? And so that's all this is. Therapy, going to therapy, as well as therapy speak, has become a weapon just to be able to do more of that. So I think the lesson there is, if a woman is the type of woman who's looking to justify her behavior versus and look for any excuse to continue what she's doing rather than have accountability and change and do better, then that's what you're dealing with, right? Like that's what's behind it, right? So like a woman going to therapy or a woman doing some self-work, well, is she doing that so she can weaponize that material to win more arguments and justify what she's doing and not make any improvements? Or is she doing the therapy and is she doing the work so she can take the accountability, admit where she's wrong and fucked up, and make changes? That's the two things you're looking for and looking at. And when you're dating, if you're thinking about taking on a girl seriously, taking on a girl in a relationship, you're looking for the girl that is going to have the mindset of challenging her own behavior and having accountability, not the girl who can never apologize, not the girl who is always blame shifting, not the girl who's weaponizing therapy language, and certainly not the girl who is going to therapy and reading self-help and doing this stuff so she can further manipulate the situation to have power over men and social power versus actually change herself, right? Because I get this a lot. I get it in consultations. Guys will come to me and they'll be like, well, she has the therapist, and they'll list off a whole bunch of shitty behavior they do, but then it's like, but she has a therapist and she's working on it, and she had some realizations. Well, when we dig into it, it's like she's not really working on anything. She's going to the therapist and going and doing the work so that she can say, I'm working on myself, to give her an excuse to continue her behavior. And then she just says, well, I've been working on myself, and then uses a bunch of therapy language, weaponizes it to say to the guy she's with, you're wrong, I'm right, I know because I have a therapist telling me all of these things, right? And the therapist may or may not be telling them any of those things. It's just a way to use, it's more weapons in her arsenal to justify her shitty behavior. And that's what a lot of women are doing, but a lot of women don't do that too, right? So you have to look for the right ones. Now, if it seems like everyone you're dating is like this, there's a social climate though that leans towards presenting yourself as this low accountability person, right? I mean, there's a social climate right now. So what you do is you execute boundaries and standards, and then you look at the responses. Girls who are in your frame, girls who are high desire for you, and girls who are capable of self evaluating, maybe they just haven't had that stimulus yet to self evaluate, meaning all the simps in the world and all the guys pining for them and all their weak ass ex boyfriends never challenged them or said, hey, like, you know what, we really need to behave a little bit differently. And so she's never really looked at it that way. And so she seems to, on the surface, have these behaviors of low accountability, right? Because no one's required it of her. Well, when you set a boundary or standard with somebody as you're dating, that's going to cause one of two things. She's either going to go, Now, when I say setting it, I don't just mean being a dickhead. I mean using the healthy communication skills that I give you and I cover in my channel, right? And that I talk about in my community. Like, you use healthy communication skills to institute a boundary or standard. And if her reaction is to have a blame shifting defensive reaction, and she starts checking all the boxes for toxic communication and starts using therapy words to make this all about you and your fault, what you're dealing with is a woman who isn't capable of being in your frame long term and isn't capable of maintaining a healthy relationship, because she's going to have to release, she's going to have to trust you and give up that power that she thinks she has with this sort of, stuff in order to be healthy. That's the thing. And if she's not doing that, then like, you can't take that into a marriage. You know what I mean? You can't take that into, well, maybe we should move in together, even though every time we have a discussion, you're doing toxic tactics to communicate and then using therapy language and your therapist to act as further ammo in those discussions. Like, that doesn't lead to healthy outcomes. Now, maybe she has a bad reaction, right? When you first say, hey, like, this isn't good, we need to do this, right? Maybe your reaction isn't the best, but then maybe she comes back later and goes, I've been thinking about what you said and I really never thought of it that way. And I'm really going to dig into that. And she starts doing some actual accountability. Like, she starts going like, maybe I should evaluate what I'm doing. Maybe you're right. Maybe that isn't healthy. Maybe that's not a good way to approach it. Or maybe that was a little disrespectful and maybe I could have reworded that, or, you know what I mean? If she starts doing that stuff, okay, like, good. You have somebody who's capable of maybe changing or maybe being more accountable to themselves and maybe being a healthier person for you to move forward with. Okay. So like, this stream here and this topic is all about recognizing that, right? And that's what you need to do, like, going forward, right? So let's talk about some of the things that they do, right? Just so some of the words, the therapy words they'll use in order to manipulate the situation. So I've talked about setting boundaries already in the stream, but they are using the words setting boundaries or that's my boundary, okay, as a way to shield accountability and silence any critique of their behavior. All right. And they're wanting to reject any reasonable requests that you have. So when you're making a reasonable request, or if you're like, hey, like, I don't think this is good behavior, like, we probably need to do something different, she's going to say, this is my boundary. It's a way of her shielding herself of any accountability. Now, there's boundaries that protect the relationship and protect herself that could be real, and it has nothing to do with shielding accountability, but it has to do with, setting standards for respect, how someone's treated, and how we move forward in a relationship. And that could be real. But if it's more about, okay, you're highlighting something about me I don't like, so now I'm going to use the word boundary in order to stop that discussion. Now we have a situation where therapy speak is being weaponized. And see, that's the thing, is some of these words can be used in a healthy or unhealthy way. You got to look at the motive behind the words being used. That's part of behavioral analysis and game, you see. How about like holding space and capacity? So like holding space, like, well, I have to hold space or I have to distance myself. Like, this is a lot of times a tool or tactic for stonewalling. She doesn't like the discussion and she doesn't want to work through the conflict. So she's going to, I need space or I need time or I need to, that's what that is. Now, sometimes there's legitimate, my emotions are too high right now. I'm really upset. I need to think about a few things and we could talk tomorrow after I've had a chance to sleep on it and think about some things. That's okay. That's actually healthy. But a lot of times it's used just to stonewall. She wants to manipulate your behavior. So she's going to remove her attention. You see? So is she removing attention and using the idea of, I need space or I need time in order to manipulate your behavior, to get you to feel uncertain, to institute dread? If she's doing those things, then it's manipulative behavior. If she's doing that because she's generally uncertain about her feelings and about things, and she needs to sort those out, and that's the real reason, and there's more of a timeline as to when you guys will communicate, and her goal and desire is to communicate in a positive way, which is why she's taking her time, like you got to look at the goal. Is she trying to communicate with you in a positive way, and she wants to avoid a fight and make sure that she's doing the right behavior, and so she wants to take time to let her emotions settle and some clarity set in? That would be healthy, right? If she's wanting to take some time in order to get you to feel some dread, to get you to feel unsure about yourself, to formulate a better argument, to beat you in an argument, like if those are the reasons she's doing it, then it's toxic. You see what I'm saying? How about the words gaslighting or narcissism? Those are my favorite. Gaslighting is a real thing, and there are certainly narcissists out there, but it's frequently used or mislabeled in disagreements, all right, just to highlight a behavior that they don't like. You know what I mean? And a lot of times, women who are doing the gaslighting will say you're gaslighting because that's part of the gaslighting. They want to constort or contort reality, misconstrue reality, so that you don't think what happened is what happened. You don't think what was talked about is what was talked about. You don't think what is objectively true is true. And the false narrative that she's presenting is fitting with her argument, her power that she gets to have in the dynamic, right? Her power over you. Usually it revolves around her being a victim and you being the bad guy. So most of the time that women use the word gaslighting in a way that is a weapon, right? Not in a way that's accurate. It's because they want to distort your reality so you see them as the victim and yourself as the bad person who needs to alter and change all of his own behavior. And if she has you altering and changing all your behavior, well, she has no accountability of hers, then she has the power. You see how that works? It's power in the relationship. And all this comes down to power for women who don't feel safe and don't feel secure with themselves. And unfortunately, people, women or men who don't feel safe and secure with themselves can be tyrants, can be evil. You know what I mean? Like that's how that can go in a direction of evil. So I'm not saying that the woman who does this is evil, but just understand like a feeling of emptiness on the inside or insecurity or distrust. These things can all lead to very highly damaging behaviors. You know what I mean? From a man or from a woman. So I don't want you to take it like lightly. And I don't want your vasopressin to kick in and go, well, She just feels bad about herself, and that's why she's such a bitch. Like, no, dude, no. Maybe that's true, but you can't take responsibility for something you don't have authority over, which is how she feels about herself. You can do everything you can to try to get to her, and that's where the game skills come in. You can try, and I'm going to give you some of those skills today before the end of the stream. You can try to connect with her differently to try to see if you can reach her to stop some of these behaviors. But many times they're just not going to stop the behavior. They have deep psychological issues that you're not going to fix. All right. You're not going to fuck her out of it. You're not going to game her out of it. All right. She just has to fix them. And she probably needs to fix them without you. You know what I mean? If she's going to fix it at all, it's probably going to be in her own quiet place as a single person. And the chances of her fixing it is low percentage wise, because most people in general don't fix themselves. I mean, a lot of people do, of course, but and that's why you guys are listening to me, right? Because you're some of the people who do. But if we talk about numbers here, there's tons of people who don't, and so you need to figure out who she is early, so you don't invest your time, energy, emotion, attachment into somebody who's just not the person. You know what I mean? How about the word triggering? That's an overused word, isn't it? All right. Triggering is used to censor your speech, used to shut down any kind of conversation that she doesn't like. And it's also used to tone police you. So you'll hear a girl saying that you're triggering her because it could be any excuse. Mom, my last ex was abusive, or my parents used to yell at me. Tone policing is a big one. When women don't like the direction of the discussion because it involves them having accountability in themselves, what they like to do a lot of times is then attack the way the guy is approaching the topic. Well, you're being mean to me right now, or you're yelling at me, you're screaming at me. Reality is you're not screaming. You're just taking a different tone. Maybe you're taking a more assertive tone with her because you're having a serious discussion and she's disregarding your boundaries. So you're needing to illustrate that, like, I'm not going to let you disregard my boundaries. So you're taking an assertive tone, and your volume might go up this much. And then she's saying you're screaming at her, or you're yelling at her. And then she'll tell her therapist you were yelling and screaming at her, or she'll tell her friends or her whoever, right? That is a form of weaponizing therapy behavior. It's making you sound actually abusive in that case. Triggering her, you know what I mean? When you're not doing that at all. And so you got to watch for that one too. That's a tactic women do. And it's tone policing. Okay. It's saying the way you're, yes, I know I shouldn't have been texting my ex pictures of my boobies, but you're yelling at me right now and you're coming across as really abusive. I don't feel safe. You see what I mean? And obviously I use an outrageous example, right? But that's real though, too. This is what happens. Girls will do catastrophically fucked up things and then tone police you when you try to bring it up or deal with it. And it's like, no wonder why you guys feel like the dating market's fucked and you can't deal with women and you have to walk on eggshells all the time. Because anytime you express, they tell you, and then it's just so funny. They tell you guys women are always saying for you guys to be more emotional and to express your emotions more, express your feelings more, and to communicate more. But most women don't mean that, do they? They really don't want that. They want you to communicate what they want. Anytime you communicate something that doesn't feel good to them, then a lot of women will come out with tone policing you, with using therapy language, talking about being triggered and all of these things in order to get to start, redirecting your message and getting you to change your messaging and change your expression so that she's more comfortable and happy with it. It's all about controlling you and weaponizing these things to do so. All right. So let's talk about some weaponizing patterns, and then we'll talk about some things to do that are pretty simple. All right. So men, you guys are taught that boundaries are healthy, right? And so what you're not taught is that the idea of boundaries can be used to end conversations unilaterally. So if a woman is unilaterally ending a conversation, and I'm not talking about putting it on pause, sometimes if things get heated, for you or for her to say, look, I think we're just really we're really getting charged right now and we're just fighting. Let's take 10 minutes or let's take a couple hours or let's talk tomorrow. All right. I need to get my head wrapped around some things. It sounds like you do too. And let's have a better conversation tomorrow. That's healthy because look, you're giving a timeline, you're giving a goal, you're expressing the reasons for why you're breaking this contact temporarily. You're not ending the conversation unilaterally. Well, that's it. End of discussion. You know what I mean? And so when you're end of discussioning things and using your boundaries as a way of doing that, you guys are being told or conditioned that boundaries are good. And then that's weaponizing a boundary. All right. So using boundaries as some sort of moral authority, that's one tactic thing that people will use. Right. And then they'll claim that if you want to continue to discuss or deal with a problem, that now you're violating boundaries and causing her harm. So that is the overall overreaching tactic. Now she'll use different language to express that tactic, but that's what's happening. Another tactic is to use trauma as immunity. All right. So trauma is like I don't know, in some video game where you like take some pill in the video game and now you have like immunity and your hit points, like you can't be attacked anymore because of this, right? Or something. I don't know. I'm not as much of a gamer as some of you guys are. Maybe you guys can help me. I'm an old guy. I'm an old guy gaming. Anyway, Gen X gamer. It's not really the same. But yeah, trauma though. Trauma is being used as a conversational immunity. She invokes the magic totem trauma. That's my trauma. You're inspiring my trauma. So now you get to stop questioning her, stop diving into what's going on, stop asserting yourself, stop setting boundaries, stop setting standards, stop trying to solve a problem with her because trauma, you know what I mean? And so trauma is real for some people, for a lot of people, right? I mean, but if it's used to invoke dominance over the conversation, then is that really healthy? Obviously not. If it's used as a magic wand for immunity of trying to solve a problem, then what is trauma being used for then? It's being used as an excuse. Do you know what I mean? And so we got to look at what that is. And if she's saying, I want to solve this problem, but I have a lot of emotional barriers right now because of my trauma, and she's still willing to work through it, but she needs to pause or she needs to rethink how you guys move forward, that would be okay. You know what I mean? That'd be healthy. But if she's just invoking the magic word trauma in order to stonewall any progress, that's not a healthy way of doing it. And unfortunately, though, this stuff will hit a lot of your guys in your vasopressin areas, the need to take care of a woman. My dad used to do this, and then like guys will be in session with me. Well, she had this, trauma from her father and the way that this happened, and that's why she's triggered when we try to have this conversation. Like, okay, no, she's just invoking those things to stonewall progress and to not communicate and to stay out of frame and play the victim. And so we need to address that, right? And not let that be what's in charge of your relationships. How about emotional safety? But that's a one-way requirement, right? So like her saying, well, I don't like the way you're talking about to me right now. I don't feel emotionally safe. Start tone policing you, those sorts of things, right? And so now what is she doing? She's controlling how you deliver the message. And she becomes the arbiter of how you deliver the message. She becomes the judge and jury as to whether your message gets to get heard or not based on how the delivery is. Now, there's some element of you need to be able to talk to each other with respect, right? And you can't sit here and, you have to have a mutual understanding of what's disrespectful behavior and what isn't. Like if you're sitting there, cursing her up a storm and name calling and stuff like that, like probably not appropriate, right? So I'm not saying that having a boundary is necessarily manipulative. Of course it's not. But when she gets to the point where she's tone policing, she is, she is exaggerating your response, and then you're having to question it. So it's like it's a form of gaslighting. Was I really like angry? Did I say it like that? Like, you know what I mean? What she's doing is she is controlling your message by controlling the way in which you deliver it first, right? So it's a way to try to manipulate you to change your message or to not continue the conversation so she can have power over you and power over the frame, and then continue to do the poor behavior that she's been doing with no accountability. And that's what you got to watch out for. You know what I mean? Now, going back to like my course material and the inner game stuff, that's how you get out of that, because you know that you have a calibrated response and you have a good redirection of your emotional self-control, compartmentalization, a way to explore and release those emotions in a healthy way, maybe outside of the context of a problem-solving conversation or argument, right? When you have all that stuff in order, you can be able to tell very clearly if she's tone policing or using her emotional safety requirements as a one-way requirement, not two, and using that to try to manipulate your message, right? Like you can tell when you're very sure of yourself on the inside. It's when you're unsure of yourself on the inside because of your emotional reactions, that's when this becomes cloudy for you. And you can get gaslit into believing that you're coming at her the wrong way when you're really not. You know what I mean? And then you become the person who's the bad person, not, and it no longer becomes about the problems that you're solving or the behavior that she did that needs to change or whatever it is. It becomes about now you and how you victimized her, right? Which we don't want that. And so the last part too is that if you let her continue to do this, what she's doing is she's stealing the frame. And if she steals the frame, then she loses desire. You see, if you let her get away with weaponizing therapy language, where you end up falling to whatever her requirements are in a conversation, you end up she loses attraction for you because now you're not demonstrating yourself as the strong, dominant man that she does actually want to be with. You know what I mean? And so that is what some strategies and what's going on. All right. So here's what strong men do and what you're going to do. Okay. Some actionable steps. All right. When she's doing any of these tactics, just acknowledge her emotions. Okay. So this is something that you can do in the course of a Luca conversation. You can do it as a statement of fact as well, or a elephant in the room tactic. Those are two tactics that I teach, right? Statement of fact is just stating the way it is, whether it's, hey, we're going to go do this, or, hey, so, you just told me this, right? Or whatever. You're just stating what is observing. Elephant in the room is saying the thing that like people are reluctant to say, which is usually often what acknowledging her emotions looks like, because she's let's say using tactics, weaponizing therapy, but she's upset. And so what you're when you're doing Luca, you're listening. The first part of the acronym is listen, understand. So you're trying to understand where she's coming from and why she's upset. So that's empathy, right? Tactical empathy. And then in clarity phase of Luca, you're like, I hear that you're upset, and you're upset because of what I think based on what you're saying. You're upset because of this. Am I hearing that correctly? So you're acknowledging the emotion. You're telling her that she's heard. So if she feels like she's heard, her need of in sense of safety goes up. So her sense of safety and security and trust goes up, which means her need to defend herself in weaponized therapy or take control or power in order to be safe comes down. So she's willing to relinquish power because the trust goes up. Understand that when women have power in the relationships, it's distrust, whether it's you, whether it's of men in general, whether it's just her way of seeing the world. It's a distrust. When trust goes up, her need to have power comes down, because she's happy to support your leadership when she trusts what's going on. You see what I mean? When it's not, when she distrusts, power, it steps in, and that's where you get these tactics. So that's a good like paradigm to look at, right? Especially this hand gesture. I don't know why I did that, but that's pretty cool. Right. So now let's go to step 2 is you're going to hold frame. All right. You're going to hold frame by saying, okay, I hear what I heard what you're saying. I understand why you're upset. I don't agree with how you're approaching this. I understand you have trauma, and we can figure out how to navigate this so you can feel safe, but I don't agree with stopping the discussion or me shifting my opinion on what happened just because you have trauma. Okay, we have to get to solutions to problems even if you have trauma, right? Or I don't agree with your opinion on how it happened. I know you think I'm gaslighting you. I understand why you feel that way, this, that, and the other, but that's not the way that I'm seeing it. And so here's how I'm seeing it. So you got to hold frame. You got to be able to state what is in the clarity portion of Luca. You let her know that you hear her, you understand her, that your goal is to get her the best outcome, to also include considering her emotions, but that you're not going to just be manipulated or pushed around into whatever she wants to believe. You know what I mean? And so you have to do that frame holding statement. That's part of clarity of Luca. And then from there, you're going to redirect. All right. So you're going to redirect it to what actually happened, to what actually was going on, to the action that needs to get fixed. This is where we move in Luca from clarity to action. So it's like, okay, so let's talk about what actually happened though. All right, you're really upset with me, whatever. You think I was abusive in this way, that way, right? Well, let's talk about what actually happened here. Let's talk about objectively what went on, right? And then that might be part of it. Or sometimes you skip that step and you go into, okay, like I hear you, you understand we have a little bit of disagreement on this, but I don't think that matters. I think what matters is that we are going to do this now to make this better. We're going to move forward with this in the future. So you stay away from all the emotional landmine stuff and you get into the practicality of what happened and what are we going to do to solve problems. And that's what you're doing during clarity and action, part of the Luca acronym, right? And if she can't proceed with this conversation without redirecting it into the emotional landmine stuff and the weaponizing of therapy, which by the way turns into toxic communication patterns like criticism, defensiveness, stonewalling behavior, or even contemptuous behavior, or just a position of arrogance where she's unwilling to face her own role in the conflict, right? If she refuses to step away from that, then that's when you disengage and you say like, okay, like we're not having a conversation that's proceeding in a healthy way. And I think emotions are just too high. I think we got to both take some time to think about things and let's talk about it, tomorrow. Okay. Let's revisit it tomorrow. After maybe some sleep and we've had a chance to think about it. Or how about, hey, you're really upset right now. I'm going to go for a walk or I'm going to go run some errands and let's talk about it when I come back. Okay. And you just do that, right? So you have to hold frame, you have to hold your standards, but you don't necessarily have to do that without acknowledging her emotions, her experiences, how she's feeling, and her perspective. And don't be afraid, by the way, to change your perspective if she is right or if she does have a valuable perspective. Leadership is about doing what's right for the people you're leading and making the right choice, whether it's your idea or someone else's. It's not about being right all the time. You got to remember that. Someone who has to be right isn't a leader. Somebody who's willing to do what's right, that's the leader. Okay, and that's what you have to do. So hopefully you guys value the stream. Hopefully you guys got some good practical stuff at it. You know what I mean? I'm going to roll through the comments here. You guys can always put a super chat or whatever helps the algorithms. This is a pretty low participation as far as that's right. It'll make you strong and not safe. But actually you'll be more safe because you're strong. That's the fun part. If I can challenge you guys in a coaching program and you guys meet those challenges and do better, what happens is you actually are safer out in the world because you're stronger. And not only just safer, but you get better outcomes as a man, right? You get all the things that you want. Um, Here's a little comment that's interesting. So Vincent says, "Hey Paul, delve back into your content after my past situation has most definitely eased my anxiety and my cutting off the last woman who deflected. Blame me for bringing up a valid concern." Well, good, man. I'm glad you dived back into things. This is a guy who's taking responsibility for himself and learning, and doing the work to improve himself. That's what this looks like. And so good job, dude, on doing that. And I'm sure your outcomes are going to be much better as you continue. You know what I mean? That's great. Um, let's kind of continue. It's changed so rapidly. Yeah, man, the dating market has changed rapidly to include dating apps, all that stuff. And that doesn't mean like it's actually right now. Here's the thing, this secret is right now is a great time to get with women, man. Right now is a great time to be single, but people don't realize it. All these problems you see on the surface and all the difficulty that women appear to be posing out in the sexual marketplace are all due to a need for a real connection with an attractive or dominant man. So if you can portray yourself and be the attractive dominant guy who isn't affected by all this bullshit, you like girls see you as an oasis, you know what I mean, in a desert of loneliness. I mean, they really will respond well to you. And I would say women will respond better to you today than even 5 years ago, but you got to get through the barriers to get the response. That's where you got to get that attention and start that conversation that leads to something. And dating apps are harder to make that happen now, but like there are strategies in dating apps you can do to cut through that. I just had that. That's actually going to be in that webinar I'm going to throw up today. I think I should be able to have time to put that up today. So in my community, you're going to go to the classroom and I'm going to have some free stuff there. One of the free things will be a webinar I did where I talk about using the skills like from my new course on dating apps, right? And how to be more attractive there. You're going to cut through a lot of the bullshit in 2026 if that's what you're trying to do. And you're going to start connecting with more women if you follow that advice. And so there's that free stuff that'll be there. But yeah, because it has changed. And that's the thing. Like, dude, you guys got to realize these people on YouTube, most of these guys are just regurgitating shit somebody else said because they get it from AI. AI gets it from YouTube and the internet, right? And it's all shit somebody else said that's been out of date now by a few years. So if you're not, there's some coaches like dating coaches, PUA guys that are working with guys every day who have their shit together because they know what girls are doing in the sexual marketplace. There's guys who do relationship therapy or coaching like I do that see what's happening in modern relationships because they work with people all the time. But most of the people on YouTube aren't even doing that to a scale or a degree. And so they're really just drawing their messages from the rest of the internet. So it's an echo chamber of bad advice sometimes that you get in the internet. So you got to keep that in mind. A lot of the advice right now that's popular for how to do your dating app is only like 75% right. And so the 25% that's wrong is going to cause you to get no matches. Thing about dating app or internet marketing is you got to nail a bunch of benchmarks to a certain level correctly in order to get results. And you tend to get like no results or barely results until you meet those benchmarks. And so, yeah, if you're missing those few things, ain't going to work for you. You got to get with people who know. So let's keep going. Got a shout out to Hermosi. That's thanks to Alex Hermosi explaining courses being a negative shout out. I like Hermosi, man. I think he's just trying to he's all about he's definitely been able to scale a massive business for himself. I tilt my hat to that. I think that he gives out a lot of good information. I think he's just trying to help guys make a life for themselves. But he does say, so here's the thing. Hermosi does say that if your product sucks and you suck, maybe don't do this. You know what I mean? Maybe you need to work on that. And he said that a million, like I've caught him say that in his streams before. The problem is everybody is arrogant today because of the internet, and guys have a lot of ego and they think that they're good when they're not good, and then they're putting out shitty products. You know what I mean? And that's the problem. And I don't know if that's a Hermosi problem. I think Hermosi just helped people do it right. You know what I mean? But which could have had the negative consequence of a lot of grifters doing it right, I guess. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm glad Hermosi's doing his work in the world, but I do get what you're saying. You know what I mean? Like, we're just giving ammo to grifters, but I don't know what else to do either. You know what I mean about it? What's the other solution though? You know, taking action is the very thing that makes stress easier. Yes. And then there's mental processing exercises that are very short and easy to do. But if you don't do them, your action taking has less of an impact on your mind. And what that means is like, okay, by doing the exercises, the action you take impacts your mind more severely, which makes the changes at a neuroplasticity level happen at a greater level, so that your action taking in the future continues to get better. You know what I mean? It's like you're scaling the action you're taking, the effort. A lot of people see a course like what I have as like a means of work. Well, if I do this course with Paul, he's kind of an asshole, so I know he's going to require me to do shit, and that sounds like work. And I'm not lazy, but I already have too much work to do. I understand that. Here's the thing: a course like what I've designed is designed to make your life easier, not harder. You're doing a small amount of a little bit of extra. So the work that you're doing already gives you a larger, greater, bigger result, which then makes everything easier on the back end, gives you more time, more money, more happiness, better time with your girls, so on and so forth. So that's the thing. You're compounding your effort by doing this much extra. So it's actually making your life easier. So guys who understand that, you know what I mean, know and really benefit. The guys who don't, unfortunately, you know, I hope you guys change your mind. And yeah, dude, thank you. True. This guy's a bunch of numbers. 15458. Anyways, he's a bot. I'm just kidding. Yeah, most guys are suffering from inaction. Absolutely. And thank you. I appreciate this comment too. So you must be in the course. It's a mystery guy. Anyways, it's worth the money. Your life will change. It will, man. It will. Yeah, the Tates do. The Tates are internet marketing experts and experts at being famous. I don't know what else to say about it. That's that. You know what I mean? They're definitely better at the internet clout than I am, for sure. They got some things to back it up, though. It's not like they didn't do anything with their lives. You know what I mean? They've certainly done things. Not everybody agrees with everything they've done, but they're certainly accomplished in a lot of ways. So it's not like they're nothing. But is their courses and is their material valuable? I mean, I guess that's a question. I don't know. Never taken them. But you know, it's you know, there's I don't know if they're among. I think that some of it might be and some of it might not be. Who knows though? I don't know. I'd have to talk to them and see what they're doing, but I don't talk to them. Let's see. A lot of people have trust issues because of past letdowns. Dude, 100%. And I need to be more aware of that. I tend to be like an asshole, right? Because I know that by being an asshole, maybe I'm going to help you more. You know what I mean? It's not me just being, but I get disgruntled too. Right. I do, like we all do. My thing is like, come on, dude, like, let's fucking go. Like, that's me. Like, I'm like, you know, I'm going to pick you up off the ground and shake you and say, we're going to fucking go, dude. Let's fucking do it. And you're going to like, be like, okay, you know, like that's, I'm approaching it like an NCO in the army. You know what I mean? But not everybody can respond to that because most people aren't in the army and not everybody is going to see that positively. And guys are just feeling that, they're not necessarily going to trust me right off the bat, because they've been let down so many times. And so my grabbing, my verbal way of grabbing you and shaking you and saying, let's fucking go, to some guys, it's going to be like, I don't know if you're the guy I want to go with. You know what I mean? And I understand that. But that is also why I give a lot of things away, so you guys can see this is a good way to go. You know what I'm saying? Um, yeah, and that's true. A lot of people who are just making guarantees, they don't have any proof behind it, and that's too bad. Um, and this is a great comment too. A lot of men are conditioned not to be men and inaction as a result. And yeah, and I'm not saying that these guys don't have the capacity to be men. That's not fair to say, but the conditioning has made them behave a lot not like it. And so they have to really reach inside themselves and start making some steps and getting around the right people. That's why I did the community. I want you guys to be around me and other guys who are doing well and are successful. Let's continue. Yep, and this is a good point. There isn't good tribes out there. You guys, and I teach you in my community and courses how to develop good social circles. You have to be proactive about that. But even when you do that, these guys are going to have, like, they're going to be blue pilled, or they're going to be have different ideas about relationships and women that don't match yours. And they're going to have different ideas about the world, and like, and that is bullshit. You know what I mean? And so you're going to have to sort of deal with that. But that's why I created community, because guess what? Like, even though it's online, and we do meetups too, by the way, but even though it's online, you're around, you take your medicine. You're around people who see the world closer to how you see it, and who are willing to challenge you and challenge themselves. And so that is a place where you can go there and participate in some things, and you get that reassurance in your mind that your frame is the right frame. And then when you operate out in the world in your local communities, you're the strong person with the frame because you see it. You know what I mean? And if you're around too much negativity all the time, then it starts to affect your decision making, your frame. You need to start getting around people who see things closer to how you see it, which is why that's why I created the community in the first place. It's kind of an ecosystem for you guys to explore ideas. We could call it our safe space, to explore ideas that maybe not everybody is accepting of. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about harmful ideas at all, but just things that they don't like, right? Or people don't like, whatever, people who are plugged into the social narrative that actually is harmful, right? They're going to reject your way of even in wanting to explore certain things. And so you got to go somewhere that is safe for you to do that. That's the community. Oh, I don't mean to laugh. I'm sorry. Bro, what do you mean? Your girl. All right. You need to go. I'm not like, again, the community is free. So don't think I'm like grifting anything here. You need to go to the community and you need to explain this in greater detail, man. Like, your girlfriend is trying to tell you have repressed homosexual thoughts. Okay. We need to break down why that is and what I don't know what she's trying to gain from it. Well, the answer is power. She's trying to make you uncertain about your masculinity and your sexuality. First of all, like, my immediate question is, why is she your girlfriend at all? But maybe there's more to the story. So, that's a great question. That's a great topic to do a longer, not, more detailed post in the community, so I can address that, better for you. Cause that's fucking crazy. And it's probably the soft next. It's probably more than a soft, maybe a hard next on that one. Like, I don't know. It depends on what's going on. Maybe you're doing some shit. I don't know. Right. So like, we need to explore it, but what is she doing? What is she trying to gain? If you want to know that piece, it's power. She doesn't feel either safe or trusting of your masculinity frame or direction or sexual performance or whatever, right? Or she doesn't like something about it and she wants to manipulate change. So she's trying to get you to change something, or she just simply doesn't trust something. And so now she's going to attack something about you, or make some observation that's going to make you look inward and try to make changes within yourself. You see how that manipulation works? So now you see how women do stuff, right? You probably already knew, but you know what I mean? So that's what's going on. It's just trying, she's trying to get you to change something about you, or she just doesn't trust you. And so she's trying to get you to be self-conscious so that she can manipulate your behavior, or so that you alter her behavior to better match what she wants. Um, I don't know the details though, but that's the general answer. Now the question is, why is she doing that? Does she have any she probably doesn't have grounds to do that, but does she? I don't know. We need to dive into the details, man. Like, and so yeah, that's what is making her suggest you have homosexual thoughts. That is the question. Is there ever a female who apologizes? My girlfriend apologizes all the time. These guys, I'll tell you, my girlfriend is and I'm not just touting her as being, I mean, yeah, of course I'm going to, gas her up and tell her, and, gas you guys up, tell you guys my girlfriend's awesome because I'm in a relationship or whatever, right? But not just trying to like brag about her. But here's the thing. My girlfriend has good accountability. She wouldn't be my girlfriend if she didn't. It did take some frame and Luca discussions on how to communicate well with each other to get her to that point. Not that she wasn't capable of it before. She had accountability before, but women learn through relationships with weaker men, usually, okay, which is not necessarily you, but like guys in her past and guys just in her peer groups and whatnot, right? She learns that by having accountability, she gets punished. So this is why a lot of women don't have it. All right. They've learned at an evolutionary level, as well as just through social conditioning with her upbringing as in her family down to guys she's dated before, that if she shows accountability, if she apologizes, she gets punished for that rather than rewarded. She doesn't get better outcomes. She doesn't get an opportunity to change something. She instead gets to be told that she's a bad chimpanzee and a bad person, and that gets used as leverage to, have to be able to manipulate her in some ways. And so most women grow up with that. So they don't want to apologize. In your frame of the relationship, when you let her know that what makes her a better girl than the rest is her ability to have accountability, you start instituting accountability in the relationship. When you learn how to reward that accountability rather than punish the wrongdoing, which inadvertently punishes the accountability, then you'll get apology a lot more. And this has been a truth for guys who've been doing relationship game in my coaching from myself for the past 10 years, I think now. The relationships I've had that have been serious have all been women who are capable of apologizing, because that's one of my vetting things too. A woman doesn't make it. If I'm single, a woman does not make it into a commitment with me unless she's capable of apologizing. That's just my rule. And that's a good rule for you to have. You know what I mean? And if you got a girlfriend right now who doesn't do that, like I said, jump into and start asking questions in the community. We'll talk about it, because there's ways you can sort of institute that frame. Now, the other deeper side of it is maybe you don't want to do that because you're afraid if you go to institute the frame where she takes accountability and apologizes, that she's not going to be able to do it, and you end up breaking the relationship. But guess what? That's probably a relationship that needs to be broken if that's the case. I hate to say that that's the reality, but my experience is that if both people in the relationship cannot be accountable for their actions and are reluctant to ever apologize, other than by penalty of death, that's the only reason they'll apologize. If that's two people in a relationship, that relationship's not going to go very far. Or it's going to be miserable, but they're staying together. You know what I mean? It's not going to be a successful relationship. So that's kind of one of those requirements, man. So yeah, hit me up if you need to talk about that more. Oh man, I'm sorry to laugh at your shit. So she thinks you're gay because you're sleeping on an air mattress with a buddy. Listen, man, she's never been in the infantry. First of all, we're all pretty much gay there. Um, heterosexual gays. Anybody who's infantry, no, like it's all, fucking the stuff we joke around about and do. It's like crazy. But look, see, obviously, that's she's saying. All right, so why would she be saying this? Because you're going on fishing trips with your friend, and that takes away attention from her. It takes away time from her and all this stuff. It's more of a shit test. And also a little bit of a manipulation tool. Okay. So that's what's going on there. Assuming that you're not like doing some Brokeback Mountain shit with your friend, you know what I mean? You're not leaving every weekend because you can't quit each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, assuming that you're not actually doing gay stuff with your friend, which I don't think you are, right? But that's, just to put that out there. So that's not what's going on, right? So obviously, what this is she's trying to manipulate your behavior because you're going on fishing trips, and she wants you to question what you're doing so that maybe you do less of that, right? It's a way of her shaming you for doing something that you enjoy. You know what I'm saying? It's probably not because you're gay, and sleeping in a same air mattress or something is not a big fucking deal. All right. And you go once a month. So maybe she thinks your once a month trips are too much for the relationship. Do you know what I mean? That's what that is. All right. And so yeah, this is all a shaming tactic. This is all a shit test. That's pretty funny. Um, and there's ways of handling it. You got to get in the community and you got to describe this more. Okay, so I can give you better context because I actually have to end this stream. I have a client waiting here. So yep, this is a good comment. Mental illness is real. However, I've noticed the uptick of self-diagnosing women. Yep, that's exactly right. Because they get power from it. They get to be the victim, right? There's all kinds of stuff, right? So thank you for commenting for the algorithm. And by the way, make sure you guys who see this later are liking, subscribing, and doing the things, maybe even sharing, doing things to help get this out to other men. Algorithms on YouTube will not do this for me by themselves. It does require your help, and I do appreciate that help. And last, this stream taught you something useful. Good, man. That's what I'm here for. And last but not least, get that pussy in the Bugatti. Absolutely. Okay, cool. You guys are great. I'm going to end the stream. Catch you next time. Again, don't forget the community. Remember what I said about the course. Don't be that apathetic guy. All right. You got a lot you can do here. And there's a lot we can do together if you want to make some changes. All right. Thanks. Take care.